Learn today's latest striker news as we continue to find replacements for the injured Armando Broja. So today, let's discuss the latest Moukoko updates, as well as surprising news behind interest for Vlahovic of Juventus. Then with things, we talk Jorginho and his contract situation. So right now, we have a ton of things to break down and discuss, my friends. I hope you guys enjoy. Get involved in the comments and please let me know, what striker do you hope we can sign in the January window? Before we continue on, let me pay the bills. Let me get one big plug out the way. Today's video is brought to you by friends of the channel in One Football. Now, the World Cup is ending very soon, and it's a bit mad because for me, the group stages felt like yesterday, and already we're closer to the final now for this tournament to end. Over 300,000 people have played this game as well too, so make sure you guys give it a go before the World Cup ends. Very easy to do so. All you have to do is download One Football. Once you do, you go to the homepage. There's a tab straight here, or you can go to your profile to play the quiz as well too. But clicking on the quiz, you take part, you press play, and for example, the first question is, which pop star shares a name similar with Morocco's goalkeeper? That has to be Bono. Who became France's all-time leading scorer? Of course, Olivier Giroud. So what are you guys waiting for? Try it for yourselves. You'll find a link below in the description and in the top comment as well too. So right now, let's kick things off and let's talk Jorginho's contract and his Chelsea future. You know, at this point in time that Jorginho has not really agreed to the contract terms that's been presented to him by the football club. There seems to be some disagreements at this point in time. The club personally feel like Jorginho's demands are just way too high at this point in time, and naturally with his contract expiring next summer, once it gets to January, he can sign pre-contract agreements, and currently clubs like Barcelona, who are looking for successors to Busquets, clubs in Serie A are all expressing interest to try and sign Jorginho. Of course, from Jorginho's perspective, if he was to sign a pre-contract agreement, this is his final opportunity to earn big money, yeah, because he can earn from a massive signing on fee, he can earn higher wages because clubs aren't spending any money towards a transfer, etc. So I guess things become a lot more interesting. But of course, good news, especially for a lot of people that support and really like Jorginho. But it does seem like the club are getting closer now to finding an agreement for Jorginho. They want him to stay, they want him to remain here. I've got some thoughts and opinions. Wait for me to share them once I get the news out of the way first. But getting back to reports, Jorginho's agent has also expressed the fact that his client would prefer to remain at Chelsea and stay in London, where him and his family are extremely settled. So I guess that's promising news, but I'm going to give some thoughts and opinions. And are we making the right move and potentially keeping Jorginho? Now I'm going to keep things extremely objective now. For me, it does make a bit of sense. Jorginho is one of the players where his fitness is like ridiculous. He's always available, he's always playing like 60 games plus. And considering just how intense a season can be when you're competing for silverware, you can't afford to weaken your squads by letting go of players like this who already have like commanding presences in the dressing room, and of course are good football players in their own right. Now here's where there's some contradiction now, and I want to use this time to explain myself. Back when Sarri was our manager at the time, I never really criticized Jorginho at all because Jorginho's role suited the way Sarri wanted us to play. I saw Jorginho at Napoli. I know what Jorginho can do in a midfield three, and it does feel like we're slowly transitioning to using number 8s in our midfield. And for me, this is where Jorginho's game really shined, because he's the guy that releases the number 8s. He plays that line-breaking pass in our own half, set these guys off in the transition, of course, then cause havoc in the final thirds. And I think for me, that's what Jorginho is best at. I mean, we can't take away from his talents. I mean, the guy has ridiculous tactical acumen, decent positioning, he controls the game very well. But I think for me, the one thing that causes the most grief for Jorginho is how he's seen. Now for me, he's not a traditional playmaker in the sense that he won't play like a pinpoint accurate ball over the top from 40 yards. He's not going to play passes in between the lines with consistent quality. He's not going to really provide that creative output in the final thirds that you're kind of hoping for, especially as we've turned to using a pivot in our midfield. But for me, Jorginho is a regista, and a regista is a niche playmaking role. And essentially for me, a regista is a playmaker in your own half. Now when Jorginho gets to play one-touch football, he's one of the key guys that you pass balls to in our own half, because he is able to just see, the entirety of the pitch where his teammates are. He's got unreal composure, and he's essential in the build-up phase. That's when you'll see Jorginho playing line-breaking passes in our own half. It just doesn't translate in the final third, and I think for me, you'd make this guy's life a lot easier if he was played more as a DM. And I do think that if you just push those defensive lines up and become a bit more compact like what Sarri did, you can afford to use Jorginho in the base of your midfield. So on that note, I need to respect why the club would look to, keep Jorginho here. I don't hate the guy. I think he's a good player. And I do think there could be more life in Jorginho if we move away from using the current pivot system. So I understand it. I'm not against it. Share your thoughts and opinions. Do you think it's time to move Jorginho on? Or do you think we have to keep him? Let us all know. So right now, let's move on to a very interesting report surrounding Vlahovic of Juventus, courtesy of reporter Ben Jacobs. Now, you guys let me know in the comment section if you want to see me invite on Ben Jacobs again so we can get the lowdown behind our transfer business in this window, because reports are suggesting that we are hoping to make at least 3 to 4 signings in January, which for me seems a little bit ambitious, but you never know with this football club. But regardless, let's center on Ben Jacobs' tweets. And essentially reports that Vlahovic could be available next year in 2023. Many clubs across Europe are currently in contact with his agent, and they're trying to just get an understanding behind his availability and if he is open to a move in January or in the summer. Now currently there's a lot of controversy happening behind the scenes at Juventus. We've seen the reports, we've seen how all their board members have left them as well too. It's probably not the most ideal situation for most of their players, especially when there's a lot of pressure on Allegri, who a lot of the fans are a bit annoyed with his style of football. So Vlahovic has scored goals at Juventus. I mean, currently this season in 19 games, 9 goals, 3 assists. So that's like 12 goal contributions. That's not too bad considering that Juventus don't necessarily make Vlahovic's life easy in terms of creating reliable service for the striker. And service, that dirty word at this football club, is something I'm going to get back to. But anyway, let's go back to Ben Jacobs' reports. As he says, with Champions League football now in doubt for Juventus, and due to their dire finances, they could be forced to actually have to sell Vlahovic if they can't get Champions League football for next season. There could be competition from Arsenal, with Gabriel Jesus now out injured. Originally, they tried to sign Vlahovic last January, so you wouldn't be surprised if they made another move. Currently, it feels like a lot of clubs who are showing slight interest or like medium interest are just investigating the situation to understand more about the possibility of Vlahovic's availability. So let's see what happens with this situation. It's not as concrete, but we are one of the clubs that have been talking to his agent about the possibility to sign. So for me, I think Vlahovic is one of those classic strikers. I think maybe you go back to the year 2000, early 2010s, whatever, that type of forwards where you could probably afford to just focus solely on your goal scoring, they were more prevalent back then. For me personally, Vlahovic relies upon his service. He needs top service. I feel as a football club, that is something that we are struggling with at this point in time. We need to create an attacking identity to be able to really just complement the forwards we have here. And I don't know, a part of me feels like Vlahovic could be a slight risk because he's more of like a poacher style striker. Like his involvement in the build-up phase isn't as extreme. It's a lot more like short passes and then runs in behind. He has great movement. The guy has a very powerful shot. And I think he has incredible accuracy with his shooting. And his technique with his shots is excellent. I mean, from different angles, different positions. He has the right shot selection for each scenario. And I think that's his major talent. But to be fair, anytime I look at Vlahovic, I do get these Luca Toni regen impressions. And I'm not saying this in a negative way because Luca Toni was a fearsome European striker. But the reason I'm bringing up this comparison is to try and maybe calm down any proper excitement around the player, because I think sometimes when we talk about these European forwards, we focus on their goals and we kind of just project they can do anything and everything, when for me, these guys excel in the clear roles that have been given to them. I just think that Vlahovic needs more service, but for me, if there was an opportunity to sign him on loan, I'd feel more confident and comfortable with something like that. But I guess time will tell. And right now, you guys, share your thoughts and opinions. Do you want to see Vlahovic here? Do you think he's a top striker? Please let us know. So let's end things by discussing the biggest story today, and we have more updates on the future of Moukoko. Now, of course, with Broja being injured, we are short up front. we must sign some attacking reinforcement if we have any hopes of getting Champions League football. It's really that simple. So these updates are very interesting today. Now, something I was alluding to in previous videos has been reported today, and that fact is we are hoping to make a 10 million offer for Moukoko in January to sign him in January now. Of course, we know that his contract expires in the summer, so if he signed pre-contract agreements, Dortmund earn absolutely nothing. If Moukoko has his heart set on leaving Dortmund, of course, they'd be more enticed to accept a transfer fee in the final 6 months of his deal, and they're the type of efforts we're looking to make to try and sign the player. But now we turn our attentions to Barcelona. I'd probably say, in my opinion, Barcelona would be the favourites if Moukoko was to leave Dortmund, but an issue Barcelona have is that they have Lewandowski up front, and Moukoko, similar to Endrick, has expressed the fact that if he was to leave Dortmund, the project is the key thing. With top teen talents like this that have the ability to be the leading figures of their generation, they're not playing around with their development. These are the crucial years to improve and make your mark in the game. So it's only natural that he is going to care about the minutes he can get. And when you have Lewandowski up front, plus all these other forwards at Barcelona, how much minutes would they really afford to give Moukoko? That's the interesting thing here. So reports are suggesting that we'd give the guarantees and assurances that he would develop here, he would get minutes, and will pay money up front to beat competition to his signing. So I think that's a very interesting offer. Let's see what happens with that. But there's also another bit of reality that we have to accept. In my opinion, I feel like maybe Dortmund would be the favourites to actually keep the player. And it all comes down to the fact that they have a new manager in Erzic who replaced Marco Rose. And under Rose, maybe Moukoko didn't feel as confident about the minutes and his development. But under Erzic, I mean, he's been relied upon this guy quite a lot. He's introduced him to the first team. He's playing him week in, week out. And, you know, Moukoko has been at Dortmund since he was a kid. In a sense, it would feel maybe a bit stupid to leave Dortmund right now, knowing that you can make your mark at the club where players like your Dembeles, Hollands, and many others have made their marks previously. Make your name there, and you will have the rest of Europe still after you. Right now, you're a teenager. Playing, developing is more important than who you're playing for right now. So it only makes sense to develop at a club that you have trust and faith in. So I don't know, I feel like Dortmund would be the clear favourites, but let's see what happens. I'll end things by saying, you know, if we're telling Moukoko, listen, come sign for us, you'll get the minutes. You'll be playing for a leading club at 18 years old in the Premier League, the most luxurious league in the world right now, where you're taking part in a very exciting project where we want to also play you alongside some of Europe's best young talents, playing for a manager that has made a name for himself, developing talents, trusting in them and using youth. I do feel like it's a very enticing, attractive offer, but now we just wait for Moukoko and his team to assess offers and see what they do now. So you guys that know, I'm going to wrap things up, keep things moving. Thank you for watching. Hopefully by the time this video comes out, Morocco have beaten France and gone through. I think we're all collectively just like praying for something like that right now. So let's see what happens, my friends. But on that note, I'm Nini FC. This is BlueLionsTV. I'll catch you guys later with some more videos. Cool.